What's up guys, it's Nimbus Reviews here, back with another One Piece video. Today I want to talk about a sort of touchy subject, death in One Piece, but not in the way you're probably thinking. I've been in the process of writing two videos that heavily revolve around the idea of death for a while now. One being my video about Kaido and how I think he's come to think the way he does about death, his mindset, and his history. And the other being about Usopp and how I think achieving his dream might mean death before the end of the story. Thinking so much about this in these cases has made me look deeper into the topic as a part of the One Piece world rather than a tool Oda is known for not using often in his story, at least in the present day. Doing my research for these two videos has really made me appreciate Luffy's will to go after his dreams, even if that means he might die. One of the first character traits that we learn from Luffy is that he doesn't care if he dies as long as he tried to achieve his dream. Seeing as how Oda felt it was necessary to show this part of Luffy so early in the story, being chapter 2 when he was talking to Kobe about wanting to become the Pirate King, I think it might be a more important theme than most people in the community would think, at least from what I know, because I don't see anyone really talking about it often. My belief is that Luffy understands, like many others in the story, that if you aren't chasing your dreams, then you aren't really living. This is highlighted by Luffy and Ace's conversation after Sabo quote-unquote died in the ASL flashback after Marineford. Ace told Luffy that they have to live life with no regret. This means chasing their dreams even if it means certain death. If Luffy didn't set out to sea to try to achieve his dream, then he would be living in regret of that decision for the rest of his life. For me, these introductions to this aspect of the story were confirmed to be something Oda is doing intentionally in SBS Volume 4, when a reader asked Oda why doesn't Luffy kill his enemies, and Oda responded with this. The reason Luffy doesn't kill is this. In his era, men lived by their beliefs and risked their lives to defend them. Luffy shatters the beliefs of his enemies by defeating them. For them to suffer defeat and to have their beliefs destroyed is as bad as death. Killing their bodies is beside the point. This adds to the fact that Luffy and many other pirates from his era care much more about following and living by their dreams than whatever danger could come their way from doing so, even if that danger can be as severe as death. There has been so many moments in the story that Oda has emphasized the importance of dreams in this world. One of the earliest moments I was able to find Oda showing the importance of this element in his story, aside from the previously mentioned moment where Luffy was talking to Kobe in chapter 2, is in chapter 100 during Dragon's first appearance. At the beginning of that chapter, we get these narrated cards quoting none other than Gold D. Roger, the king of the pirates. But at that time, the readers only knew him as Gold Roger. But the quote goes like this: "These things cannot be stopped. An inherited will, one's dreams, the ebb and flow of the ages. As long as people hunger for freedom, these things will exist." This quote rings incredibly true to so many aspects and themes of the story. Even just looking at the Straw Hats that we had at that point, right before we enter the Grand Line, we can see all of them having inherited their strength of will from somebody in their past, and even partially their dreams as well. Luffy inherited his will and dreams from Shanks and Roger. Zoro inherited his from Kuina. Sanji from Zeph, Usopp from his father, and later the Giants of Elbaf, and Nami got her will from Bellemere. The very next crewmate we get after this is Chopper, and Oda uses his introduction arc to push this narrative even further, giving us the first time someone straight up says that one doesn't die until the dreams die. This is probably one of the most known quotes from the story, but it goes like this. "When do you think people die? When they are shot through the heart by the bullet of a pistol? No. When they are ravaged by an incredible disease? No. When they drink a soup made from a poisonous mushroom? No. It's when they are forgotten." This is and always has been one of my favorite scenes in One Piece. It was actually the first moment I cried watching it. During the main part of the speech isn't where Dr. Hirlik directly states that his dreams will live on and that's why he will live on as well. He just says that he won't die until he is forgotten. But right after his speech he tells Wapol, "I may disappear, but my dream will live on." This is Oda telling us directly that it's not important if you die or not. It's important that you chase your dreams and seek freedom, because that is the only way you can live on even after death. And that's the only way your will and your dreams can be inherited by the next generation. Hirlik knew this because he sought out his dream and he sought out freedom. So he was able to pass down and have Chopper inherit his dream. So even if he were to die, his dream would live on through Chopper. This is probably why Hirlik admired pirates so much, because of all people, they're the ones who seek out freedom more than anyone, and the ones whose dreams are able to live on through the ages. Just think about it. What if Shanks never set back out to sea after the Roger Pirates disbanded? Then Luffy would never have inherited Shanks' will, or even Roger's. Because by Roger seeking freedom and following his dreams, he is able to pass his will on to the next generation in Shanks, and Shanks to Luffy. This inherited will can go back for generations and generations. And even now in the story, we're getting things that show how important this is with the recent information we've gotten about Joy Boy, and Luffy possibly being or becoming Joy Boy, which is most likely a form of inherited will, but that's a topic for a different day. Before I move on to the main point of the video, I'd like to go over some moments that inherited will and dreams and death were emphasized in the story, and it's probably best to start off where we left off, at the end of the Drum Island arc, when Dr. Kureha learns that Luffy has a middle initial D, and her first thought was Roger. She says that her reindeer will probably get more than he bargained for, and that the will of D lives on. Other than this implying Kureha knew Roger at some point, it's also very interesting because it is the first time that the will of D was mentioned, and the first time we learn Roger's name is actually Gold D Roger and not Gold Roger. And it also hints that Roger and Luffy have some sort of connection through inherited will. I also think it's notable that right before this is when we first learn of Ace and Blackbeard, who both carry the will of D as well. By the end of the story, I believe Oda will connect the will of D to inherited will directly because of the many hints we have gotten that they might go hand in hand. With the new generations carrying on the will of this clan or family of D that likely originates in or before the Void Century, my theory is that each and every member of the D family has an equal opportunity to become the successor of Joy Boy, who is likely the leader of the family during the Void Century. While I do think there is an aspect of luck to this, I do think if you are alive at the right time, you can become Joy Boy as long as you're a member of the family of D. But before I make this too long, let's get back onto topic. Now that I've already mentioned Blackbeard, I'll just tell you what I believe all of this means for him, his character, and what role I think it will play for him in his arc. In Blackbeard's first proper introduction, he is shown to be a lot like Luffy, but not just in mannerisms and appetite, but in ideology as well. After Luffy and Zoro refused to fight back against Bellamy, because it wouldn't be worth it to fight against someone who didn't even have the strength of will to dream, Blackbeard tells them they have guts, and that some fights you don't have to use your fists to prove your might. He then goes on to say this famous line: "The new age they spoke of is rubbish. The age of pirates' dreams is over. People's dreams don't ever end." This line paints Blackbeard to be the same type of pirate as Luffy, one who understands what it means to chase your dreams at all costs, regardless of the consequences or how ridiculous they may seem. It makes you think maybe Blackbeard has the same inherited strength of will to seek freedom in one's dreams. But not too long after, during the next time we see Blackbeard after Jaya, Oda shows us that this isn't the case and Blackbeard and Luffy can't be any more different. In chapter 440, we finally get to see the meeting of Blackbeard and Ace after learning about Ace's search for him back at Drum Island. With this meeting, we get to see Blackbeard's character in full effect, completely unfiltered. When Ace confronts Blackbeard, Blackbeard explains his plans to become the king of the pirates, and a few things he said really stood out to me. After saying he's waited for decades and decades on Whitebeard's ship to find the Yami Yami no Mi, he says, "If my bad luck had continued, I would have just given up someday." This is really weird to me, seeing someone with the will of D and supposedly the same inherited strength of will as Luffy just admit that they would have gone and gave up all their dreams if they weren't lucky. This alone stood out to me, but the next few lines of dialogue from chapter 441 really showed me that Blackbeard isn't the same as Luffy, and likely he's very different from all the other members of the Will of D. Blackbeard tells Ace, "It'd be a great loss if you died. Come on Ace, join me." To which Ace replies, "If I bowed to power, what's the point in living? I'll never live my life with regrets. Do you understand that, moron?" And this is where it gets really interesting. Blackbeard remarks, "Once you're dead, nothing else matters. I'm sorry you're such a fool, Ace. Die in the darkness." Comparing that to what he said in Jaya about dreams never dying, you'd think he'd be contradicting himself, but that's not necessarily the case. Unlike Bellamy, Blackbeard does have the will to dream big, and believes that as long as he's alive, his dream will never die. But he doesn't have the will to go after his dream without some sign of success. And I think this is partially why he planned so much as opposed to Luffy just charging straight in. Unlike Luffy, Blackbeard doesn't see his dream as being worth more than his own life. Luffy knows that as long as your dreams are alive, he can't die. But Blackbeard thinks as long as he's alive, his dreams won't ever die. It's crazy how changing a few words around can completely change the ideology. Later, we do see Blackbeard risk his life for his dream in Impel Down and also in Marineford, but it was likely due to naivete and overconfidence, rather than his strength of will, whereas Luffy is the opposite. We even see when he is looking death in the face at Marineford, he grovels before his ex-captain Whitebeard and begs for his life instead of accepting where following his dreams has taken him and accepting death, knowing he sought out freedom and dreams, and after that, his dreams and strength of will live on and be inherited and passed down to the next generation. He fears death and is scared when he is faced with it, because to him death is the end, and the day that happens, his dreams will die. This brings me back to the question I mentioned before from Volume 4 of the SBS, where Oda tells us that Luffy destroying his enemy's beliefs and dreams is a worse fate than death, at least in this era that they're currently in. But from my conclusion, I don't think that is true for a man like Blackbeard. He believes even as long as he is alive, then his dreams are alive as well. So Luffy can't shatter his dreams even if Blackbeard was defeated like the other antagonists. No matter what happens to him, his dreams will live on. To truly put Blackbeard's dreams down and shatter his beliefs, he must be killed. For Luffy to truly win, he will have to do what he hasn't done before and kill Blackbeard. Well guys, that's basically all for this video. There's so many instances where this has been brought up that I could have mentioned, like Roger telling Rayleigh that he wouldn't die before he was being executed, knowing that he would meet his end soon. Or even Oden telling Kaido that he doesn't care if he's remembered or forgotten, because his soul will live on. I could literally talk forever, but I'm hoping I got my point across with this. I just thought it was an interesting topic that not many people have talked about. I know people have talked about dreams in this way, but they haven't really paired it with death. But so many times in the story, it's been mentioned that dreams don't die when you die. They die when your will doesn't live on, when it doesn't get passed on to the next generation. So I thought I'd talk about it in the way I've looked at it, especially since I've been trying to write a few videos about death. It's really made me think about it a lot. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this. I worked really hard on this video, so I'd appreciate it if you'd like and comment telling me your thoughts on this. I'd love to discuss it with everyone. And if you'd like to see more, don't forget to subscribe. But until next time, later.